The Phantom Client. Shela Rahasya. Sahyadri Hotel, Mahabaleshwar, Pune. The 3rd of January. Dear Ajit, I couldn't write to you after coming to Bombay. You know how difficult I find to write letters. You are a writer, so you are capable of writing long letters. But where will I get your imagination? I only deal with truth. Still, I am sitting to write this long letter to you. You will understand why I am undertaking this Herculean task as soon as you come to the end of this letter. I am writing this letter in candlelight from the hotel room of Mahabaleshwar, a hill station. It is cold and dark outside. I am sitting in a closed room, but I am unable still to avoid the cold and the dark. The wick of the candle is flickering. There are long shadows moving silently on the walls. Indeed, a ghostly atmosphere. I have always tried to avoid dealing with the supernatural in my life, but it is becoming difficult for me to keep it out of my business here. As I am unable to relate a story as you do, I have first written what I should have related later. I must begin from the very beginning. I took about 4 days to finish my work in Bombay. I had decided to return on the same day. But I had got acquainted with a police bigwig, Mr. Vishu Vinayak Apte, Maharashtrian. He said, "How can you go back from Bombay without seeing Pune?" I asked, "What is there to see in Pune?" He said, "Pune was the great Shivaji's capital. There is lots to see there, Singhgad, Bhabani Mandir, etc." I thought that I might not come to this part of India again, so why miss the chance of seeing places? I said, "All right, I am interested." We started out in Apte's car. The road from Bombay to Pune is beautiful. It waved in and out of the Sahyadri mountain ranges of the Western Ghats. It is difficult for a person like me to describe the scenic beauty of these parts. On one side are the mountain ranges, on the other, deep gorges. You would have written an epic on the beauty of this place. I was a guest in Apte's house in Pune. There was no dearth of hospitality. Pune is colder than Bombay. But this cold does not make one feel numb, instead one feels energetic. I stayed in Pune for 3 days and saw all that had to be seen. Then Apte said, "How can you leave Pune without seeing Mahabaleshwar?" I said, "What's that?" Apte laughed and said, "It's a place. It is the best hill station of Maharashtra, just as your Darjeeling. It's 2,000 feet higher than Pune. Everyone from Bombay goes for a holiday in Mahabaleshwar during the summers. But no one goes during the winters. How cold is it? It's like the weather in England. Let's go, you will like it." So here I am in Mahabaleshwar, and am I enjoying myself? Mahabaleshwar is 75 miles from Pune. We started out by car after lunch and reached Mahabaleshwar at about 4 in the afternoon. On reaching, we found that the town was virtually empty, except for a few permanent residents. It was really home weather here, as Englishmen would say, severe cold during day, severe cold during night. I had borrowed a heavy overcoat from Apte, or else it would have been impossible for me to bear the cold. The town was a smaller version of Darjeeling. Apte and I put up in the Sahyadri hotel. There was not one guest in the hotel. Only the owner of the hotel was there with 2 or 3 servants. The owner is a Parsi gentleman called Saurabh Homji. He is an old friend of Apte, middle-aged, plump, very fair. He must be a good businessman, but he is also a very amiable person. Apte introduced me to him. He looked at me sharply, then welcomed me to his sitting room. Coffee and pastries came soon after. The sun had set by the time we had finished our coffee. Apte went out to meet a relative of his who lived here. He said that he would return within an hour. After he left, Homji smiled and said, "You are a Bengali. You will be surprised to know that a month and a half back this hotel belonged to a Bengali couple." I was surprised. "What are you saying? A Bengali came and started a hotel so far away?" Homji said, "But he did not start it alone. He had a Gujarati partner." The servant came and said something to Homji. He asked me, "Hot water is ready, do you want to have a bath?" I said, "Are you crazy? In this cold? I will bathe only after returning to Bombay." Homji laughed. I asked him, "Your home is in Bombay, then why are you staying here in this cold?" "There are no beaches here now." Homji said, "There is a lot of work to be done here. Visitors will start coming from March. So the hotel has to be painted and tidied up by then. Then I have made a rose garden at the back of the hotel. Why don't you come along with me? It is still daylight. I am sure that you would like to see the garden. The garden was at the back of the hotel. Flowers will begin blooming in a month or two. The hotel was a whitewashed, two-storied house. It had about 12 to 14 rooms. A red pathway passed the front of the house. At the back, after the rose garden, was a deep gorge. If one bends down, one would notice a dense forest and a stream, deep down in the gorge. We were returning indoors when a roar echoed in the gorge. By now it was pitch dark below. I asked, what was that? Homji said, a tiger's roar. Let's go in. The electric lights were on inside. The servant brought a coal stove near us. We pulled our chairs near it. I asked, so there are tigers here? Homji said, yes, there are also cheetahs, hyenas and wolves. The tiger which you heard roaring is unable to leave the place because he has tasted human blood. It is a man-eater. How many humans did it kill? I know only of one. It is a very exciting story. Do you want to hear it? Just at that time, Apte came back. The exciting story was forgotten. He said that his relative had requested him to have dinner and spend the night in his house. So Apte would go there for the night and return at 9 the next morning to take me to the places of tourist interest over here, Bombay Point, Arthur's Seat, Pratapgarh Fort, etc. He went off. We chatted for some time. Then suddenly Homji asked me, I hope you are not afraid of ghosts. I laughed. Homji said, some people are afraid to sleep alone. Then shall I make arrangements for you to sleep in the first floor? I said, most certainly. Where do you sleep? He said, I sleep downstairs. My bedroom is next to my sitting room. I am asking you to sleep in the first floor because we have put away all the bedding in the storerooms as there are no visitors. Only one room on the first floor is ready. The previous owner stayed in it with his wife. We have not moved anything as yet from that room. I said, no problem, I will sleep there. We had our dinner at 8 in the evening. It seemed like midnight, everything was dark and quiet. I asked Homji, you did not tell me your exciting story. Homji said, yes, indeed, it is an exciting story. This incident has to do with the two previous owners of this hotel. Homji began his story. About 6 years back, a Gujarati named Manik Mehta and a Bengali named Bijoy Bishwas started this hotel in Mahabaleshwar. They were equal partners. Mehta gave the money, Bijoy Bishwas, the hard work. And the hotel started. Manik Mehta had a lot of other work and was hardly ever in Mahabaleshwar. He only came occasionally. Bijoy Bishwas was the person who ran the hotel, with the help of his wife, Hemabati. Manik Mehta was not a good man. He had 3 wives, one in Goa, one in Bombay and the other in Ahmedabad. He lived in one or the other of these places. He had many illegal businesses, too. He was a bootlegger, a smuggler and whatnot. Many a times, his goods had been confiscated but he was never caught. He was as slippery as an eel. No one knew how Bijoy Bishwas and Mehta met and decided to start a hotel business, because Bishwas was not that kind of a person. As far as common knowledge goes, Bishwas was experienced in the running of hotels. He had a small hotel in either Bombay or Ahmedabad. The kind of business that Mehta was involved in brought him a lot of money sometimes and sometimes not a penny. So he had decided to invest in a hotel for rainy days. Bishwas probably did not know what kind of a man he was, so he trusted Mehta and partnered him in this business. With the good management of Bishwas and his wife, the Sahyadri Hotel became one of the best in Mahabaleshwar. Here the tourist season is only for 2.5 months, or a maximum of 3 months. The couple worked so hard that within a few years the profit of the hotel doubled. Mehta came at the end of the tourist season to collect his part of the profit. During these years, Saurabh Homji was a regular visitor to this hotel during the summers. He liked this hotel and dreamed of owning one himself someday. The previous year, Homji came to stay as usual in May. As an old client he was given a lot of importance. Hemabati took special care to make him comfortable. One day she told Homji sadly, Sethji, next year you will not see us here. Why? Hemabati said, the hotel will be sold. Our partner is not willing to keep the hotel anymore. We will also leave and return to our own state. My husband does not keep well in this cold climate. That evening, Honji met Bijoy Bishwas in his office. Are you thinking of selling the hotel? Bijoy Bishwas was about 45 years of age, much older than his wife. He looked a little sickly. He always wore a lot of warm clothes including a muffler, even during the summer. He said, yes, do you want to buy it? Honji said, yes, if the price suits me. But where is your partner? My partner is abroad now. He has given me the power of attorney to sell the place. He opened his cupboard and showed Honji the document. Finally, after a lot of bargaining, the place was sold to Honji. But the whole process of registration took a few months. In the middle of November, Honji and Bishwas went to Pune, and in the registrar's office, Honji paid the money in cash. It was decided that he would take possession of the hotel on the 1st of December. After that, Honji went to Bombay and Bishwas returned to Mahabaleshwar from Pune. There were no guests in the hotel at that time. There was only a maid there. So whatever happened after this was known only from Hemabati's testimony. Manek Mehta must have given the power of attorney to Bishwas purposely, because the very next day after the transaction, he arrived at the hotel at 9 p.m. Later it was found out that Manek had left his car 2 miles away from Mahabaleshwar and had walked all the way to the hotel. When he arrived at the hotel, Bishwas and his wife were planning what they were going to do in the future. They had finished their dinner. The maid had gone off to sleep. It was quite cold then. Mehta was wearing a heavy overcoat and a woolen monkey cap. His behavior was always perfect. He said, Hemaben, I will eat and stay here tonight. Make me something simple. Hemabati went to the kitchen to make something for Mehta. She did not wake up the servant. Mehta and Bishwas began talking about money matters. There was a strong iron locker in the office. All the money from the sale of the hotel as well as some of the money from the bank was kept there. Bishwas knew that Mehta would arrive any day to take his share. Although Hemabati was cooking, her ears were alert to any conversation in the office room. She heard 2 men come out of the office room and go out of the house, to the back garden. She was very surprised, because Bishwas could not tolerate the cold, winter air. But still she could not imagine that anything untoward was about to happen. She continued cooking. Then she heard a faint scream from behind the house. She was terrified. That was her husband's voice. She ran to the back of the house through a door opening on the backyard. As soon as she opened the door, Mehta rushed in. He pushed Hemabati aside and ran towards the front door. What's wrong? What's wrong? Screamed Hemabati and ran out into the backyard. There was no one there. She then ran into the office room. She found the iron safe wide open and all the money missing. Now she realized that Mehta had pushed her husband into the gorge and escaped with all the money. She screamed and fainted. Dear Ajit, I will have to stop here. The disembodied soul has started disturbing me. I will finish my letter tomorrow. The 4th of January. I could not finish my letter yesterday. I have started writing again today in candlelight, after 10 p.m. Honji was telling me the story. We finished having our food before he finished relating the story. We came back to the sitting room. The servant served us coffee. Honji began speaking. When Hemabati regained her senses, it was past 10, the lights had gone off. She called her maid, but there was no one to help for that night. The police came the next morning. Police investigation showed that Hemabati was correct. There were signs of struggle at the back garden at the edge of the gorge. More information came to the police gradually. Manek Mehta was absconding. He was smuggling 3 lakhs of gold from Pakistan when the customs department confiscated the goods. He gave the police the slip but had become penniless. So he had murdered his partner and had vanished with all the money from the safe. It was necessary to retrieve the body of Bijoy Bishwas from the gorge. But this gorge was so inaccessible that it was a very difficult task to go down in search of the body. Moreover, a tiger couple had come to live in the valley below the gorge. One could hear them roar in the night. Anyway, the police went down the gorge with a few tribals, into the valley, in search of the body. But they found very little of the remains of the body. They came up with a few bones, some blood-stained clothes and a muffler, all belonging to Bijoy Bishwas. The police issued an arrest warrant against Mehta. It was soon the 1st of December. One could easily imagine the condition of the poor, destitute widow. Honji was a kind man. He gave some money to Hemabati. She left Mahabaleshwar for good, wiping her tears of grief and loss. A month passed. Manek Mehta was still absconding. But the tiger and the tigress were still living in the gorge. They had tasted human blood and so were unable to leave the place. I was a bit sad when I heard Homji's story. I felt sorry for a fellow Bengali who had made some money but had lost all of it and also his life. But the condition of his widow was of course worse. I wondered if the police would ever be able to catch Manek Mehta. It was a difficult job in a country like ours, where the population was vast. I was thinking about all this when the lights went off. Homji said, "Here lights go off at 10 at night and come back early in the morning. Come, let me see you to your room." He had a huge, long torch with which he showed me the way to my bedroom. There was a row of rooms, all of them were locked except the last room in the corner. There was a long veranda in front of the rooms. The servant had kept a candle on the table. The room was big, in front was the veranda, and at the side, a balcony. There were two single beds on either side of the room. One was made, the other bare. In the middle of the room was a large table and two chairs. There was a wardrobe against the wall, an alarm clock on the table, a box of candles, a box of matchsticks and a flask full of coffee, in case I felt cold at night. Homji was indeed hospitable. Homji said, "Bijoy Bishwas lived here with his wife. This room has not been used after Hemabati left. I hope you will be all right." I said, "I will be very comfortable, don't worry. You go and rest. I think it is usual for people to retire early in this place." Homji smiled, "Yes, especially in the winters. No one stirs before 8 or 9 in the morning. If you want to get up early, you can put on the alarm. Keep this torch, you may need it at night." "Thank you." Homji went downstairs. I closed the door. In the light of the candle, shadows were playing in the room. My suitcase was kept next to the wardrobe. I sat on a chair and lit a cigarette. Although all the doors and windows were shut, chilling cold air filled the room. I quickly smoked my cigarette and put the alarm at 7:30 in the morning. Aapte will come at 9. I kept the torch next to my pillow, put off the candle and slipped under two comfortable and warm blankets. I dozed off to sleep. I received no hint of the presence of the supernatural till then. Suddenly I was rudely woken up by the sound of the alarm clock. I sat up, was it 7:30 already? I flashed the torch on my watch, it was 2 o'clock and the clock on the table too indicated 2. Did I make a mistake in putting on the hands of the alarm at the right time? The clock must be a defective one. I went off to sleep and got up the next morning. This was my first night's experience. At breakfast the next morning, I asked, "Homji, is there something wrong with the alarm of the clock in my room?" He said, "No, why?" I told him. He looked worried. Then he said, "Maybe it has stopped. I will give you another one tonight." At that moment the servant came in with Apte's letter. He had written that the previous night he had sprained his ankle in his relative's house. He could not move his legs, could we please come to meet him? I asked, "How far is it?" Homji said, "Apte's relative is the manager of a bank, situated in the marketplace about 2 miles away. The manager stays on the top floor of the bank." We drove down in Homji's car. We climbed the stairs of a 2-storied house to reach the first floor. We found Apte lying in bed with his feet on a pillow. He was happy to see us. "Just look at my condition, I should have been showing you round the place but here I am in bed." I asked, "What happened?" Apte said, "I heard someone knocking at my door at night and jumped up from bed. I opened the door and found no one. So I shut it again and as I was walking towards my bed, I fell down and sprained my left ankle." "Have you hurt yourself anywhere else?" "No, but," Apte was quiet for some time. "Strangely, I didn't trip and fall. I felt as if I was pushed from behind." I suddenly asked, "What was the time then?" "Exactly 2. We did not speak about it anymore. The host had come to welcome us. He was a jolly man. We had coffee and snacks and chatted for some time." Apte said, "I thought I would take Mr. Bakshi around but I will not be able to move for 2 or 3 days." Homji said, "Don't worry, I will take him around. I am free now." We went back to the hotel after promising to come back the next day. Homji took me out after lunch to see a few famous spots. After coming back, I asked Homji for a letter pad which is nearly finished now. That night I went to bed 5 minutes before 10. The servant had kept everything in order. I noticed that he had also kept a new alarm clock instead of the old one. I did not wind the alarm but locked the key. I did not need an alarm, I would get up whenever I wanted to. Suddenly I noticed a big black moth flying around the room. I was thinking if I should open the door to let it out, when the lights went off. I was lying in bed and thinking. The alarm rang at 2 at night and 2 miles away Apte sprained his ankle. It must have been a coincidence. But if he had not sprained his ankle, he would have been sleeping in this room, on the other bed. I had dozed off when I woke up with a start. The new alarm clock was ringing. But I had not wound the alarm, in fact I had locked the key. I got up from bed and flashed the torch, it was 2 o'clock at night. The key of the alarm clock was locked but still the bell was ringing. What was wrong? I got up from bed and took the clock in my hands, the sound stopped. Ajit, you know that I don't like any mysteries. If I encounter anything mysterious, I want to get to the bottom of it. But what was the mystery here? My practical attitude is against anything supernatural, this was something I could not prove. But what was this? These happenings could not be explained by any reasoning. I really have to find the truth. I lit a candle. I had already written to you that there were 2 chairs in the room, one was an ordinary chair and the other a rocking chair. I sat on the rocking chair, lit a cigarette and began rocking gently. I was facing the door. On my right was the table, on my left the wardrobe, and behind me was the bed. The moth began flying again. I was thinking, with my eyes closed. Both the alarm clocks began ringing at 2 in the night. Was this Homji's practical joke on me? He did not seem that kind of a person, but I did laugh yesterday when he asked me about ghosts. I will examine the clock myself. But Homji was an elderly man, would he crack this kind of joke? It seemed unlikely. I don't know for how long I sat rocking the chair, not more than 10 or 15 minutes at the most. Suddenly I opened my eyes and found that I was facing the wardrobe and not the door. Not only that, I had come quite close to the wardrobe. The chair could turn for natural reasons. But if a thing like this happened at 2 at night, your senses do receive a jolt. Then suddenly the alarm clock started ringing again. I jumped up to stop it, suddenly the candle flickered and went off. If my nerves had been weak, I don't know what I would have done. I stiffened my body and forced myself to be calm. I lit the candle again, took up the clock and it stopped ringing. But this time I kept the clock inside my clothes in the wardrobe, so that even if the alarm went off, the sound would be muffled. There was a strange smell of camphor and perfume inside the wardrobe. I shut the door and lay down in bed. I could not sleep well, suddenly I felt something moving inside the blanket near my chest. I threw away the blanket, lit the candle and found that the black moth had somehow made its way inside the blanket. It was now half dead. It was 3:30 at night, by my watch. I sat for the rest of the night on the other chair. This letter is becoming too long. I will finish it quickly. At 5 in the morning, the lights came on again. I took out the clock from the wardrobe. A slip of brown paper came out with the clock, with an address written on it. The address was written in Bengali. It was that of a locality in the southern end of Calcutta. I am sending the address to you, you will need it. Then I opened the inside of the watch with my penknife and found that there was no defect in it. This time I had to admit the truth, because I am a truth seeker, even if the truth was a supernatural one. I addressed the disembodied spirit in the room, what do you want? There was no answer, but the table moved. I had my hand on the table. I said, do you want me to investigate your murder? This time not only did the table move but even 2 legs of the chair went up. I nearly fell on the table. I said, but the police is investigating, what will I do? Where will I start investigating? Suddenly the slip of the brown paper with the address, which was on the table, flew towards me. Then I thought, is Manik Mehta hiding near Calcutta? Maybe. Is he alone or? I said, all right, I will try. I saw the light of dawn slowly coming in through the window. I did not say anything to Homji. We went to see Apte at 9 in the morning. On the way I asked Homji, what did Hemabati look like? Homji smiled at me, very attractive, not very fair, but attractive. Age. A little above 30, maybe. But she still looked young. Apte was a bit better, but not completely well. We met his relative. I asked him, did you know Bijoy Bishwas? Yes, he had deposited all the money of the hotel in my bank. Did he have personal account? Yes, but he had withdrawn most of the money a few days before his death, only a few hundreds are left. However, his wife cannot withdraw it unless she gives a succession certificate. That will take some time. Do you know Hemabati's present address? No. Does anyone here know? Homji replied, I don't think so, because she herself was not sure where she would be going, poor soul. I asked Apte, you must be knowing about this case. Have the police found out the whereabouts of Manek Mehta? He said, no, I would have heard about it otherwise. Is there any photograph of Manek Mehta? There was a group photograph of Manek, Bijoy and Hemabati when they started the hotel. But it is missing. I slept soundly after returning to the hotel. I started writing to you at night but could not complete my letter after being disturbed repeatedly. Anyway, I am completing my letter today. You must have realized by now what I want you to do. You will please go to this address in the southern part of Calcutta. If you don't meet Hemabati Bishwas there, then there is nothing else to do. But if you meet her, then ask her these questions. Where is the group photograph which she and her husband took with Manek Mehta? Try to guess how close she was to Manek Mehta. Where did Mehta first meet the Bishwas and when? What is the financial condition of Hemabati at present? Who are there with her now in the house? Moreover, ask her any other question which you would want to. Then write back to me in detail. Don't leave out anything even if you feel it is not important. If you find anything suspicious, send me a telegram immediately. I will wait for your reply. I don't feel like staying on here in this cold. But I am unable to leave without solving this case. With love, Byomkesh. Calcutta. The 8th of January. Dear Byomkesh, I received your letter this morning and I am writing to you at night. My dear agnostic, isn't it a shame for you to fall into the clutches of a ghost? Anyway, according to your instructions, I was getting ready to go out about 3 in the afternoon when Bikash Datta, our assistant, arrived. When I told him where I was going, he exclaimed, goodness, that's at the back of beyond, will you be able to find the address on your own? I said, then why don't you accompany me? He agreed, but I did not give him the details of the case. The place was really far. When we reached our destination, I found that there was one straight road and the houses were few and far between. We reached the address given by you at about 4:30. As it is the winter is severe this year, even in Calcutta it is quite cold in the evenings. Here we found that it was quite cold even at 4:30 in the afternoon, probably because of the open space all around. The small on-a-storied house was a little distance away from the road and it was surrounded by fields. There were no houses nearby. I told Bikash, you wait outside the house, I may return immediately or after an hour. I knocked at the door. After quite a while, a servant opened the door and said, who do you want? I said, I want to meet Hemabati Bishwas. He asked, what is your name? I said, Ajit Banerjee. What do you want to see her for? I will tell her that. Just inform her that I have come with a letter from Mahabaleshwar. Please wait, said the servant and shut the door. I stood outside for about 10 minutes. Then the door opened again and the servant said, come in. There were 2 chairs and a table in the small room. The servant said, my mistress is taking a bath, please sit down. How long have you been working here? He said, about a month. I noticed that he spoke with a strong East Bengali accent. Where is your original home? Faridpur, in East Bengal. He sat down on the ground. He was middle-aged and was wearing a dirty, torn sweater. How many years have you been in Calcutta? About 3 years. How many people stay in this house? The mistress stays alone. She is a woman, she stays alone in this lonely place. I am an old man, I look after her, she is very good to me. Does she have visitors? No, sir, you are the first visitor I have seen since I started working here. At this point, Hemabati appeared at the door. She told the servant, Mahesh, bring a lantern. It was getting dark outside. Even in the faded light, she looked beautiful and dignified. She was fair and attractive. She was wearing the white sari of a widow, and no ornaments. I know you will tease me for my poetic description of the lady, but she looked like a stalk of Rajanigandha, wet in the evening mist. Her long wet hair was left open. I greeted her and she returned the greetings. She asked, "Are you coming from Mahabaleshwar?" I said, "No, my friend Byomkesh Bakshi, the truth seeker, is in Mahabaleshwar. I have come to meet you after I received a letter from him." This time there was an eagerness in her voice. Has Manik Mehta been traced? No, not yet. Hemabati sat on a chair slowly and said in a disappointed voice, "Why have you come to me?" "My friend, Byomkesh Bakshi," I began. "Is he in the police department?" I eagerly gave all your details with pride, and here I would like to tell you that you are not as famous as you think you are. This lady did not know of your existence. She was quite indifferent. I don't know him. I have always lived away from Bengal. The servant brought the lighted lantern and put it on the table. In the light of the lamp, I saw her face clearly. It was a beautiful face, but with a tired and disappointed expression. A few strands of wet hair crowned her face. I felt ashamed to harass this grief-stricken lady. I said, "Please forgive me, Byomkesh has told me to ask you a few questions in connection with the arrest of Mehta. When did you first meet him?" Hemabati said, 6 years ago. We had a small hotel in Ahmedabad. It was our bad luck that we had come across a man like him. Were you close to Mehta? I had personally met him about 5 or 6 times. He came only twice every year. He came stealthily to collect the money and left in the same way. Did you not suspect him for this? No, we thought that it was his nature. Do you have any photograph of him? There was a group photo in the office room of the hotel, but on that fateful night, when I regained consciousness, I found that the photograph was missing. How much money was there in the hotel safe that night? I am not sure, but a few lakhs. Then I did not know what else to ask and was preparing to leave, when she asked, "How did your friend know my address?" I haven't given it to anyone. Naturally, I could not broach the topic of ghosts in her present state of mind, so I said, "I am not sure." "Will you be here now?" She said, "I think so. A friend of my husband took pity on my condition and allowed me to stay in this house. I found that it was quite dark outside when I came out of the house. Bikash was waiting for me. We luckily got an empty taxi and boarded it. Bikash asked, "Did you get your work done?" "Yes, somewhat." I was not certain myself. Bikash was quiet for some time. Then he said, "When you write to Byomkesh Babu, tell him that there are 2 beds in the bedroom." "How did you know?" Bikash said, "When you were talking to the lady, I peeped into all the windows of the house." "What else did you see?" "I saw an iron safe in the bedroom. The servant was trying to open it." "Are you sure you saw the servant?" "Yes, the same man who opened the door for you. There is no other male in the house. We reached home quite late. Bikash has just left. Now I am sitting down to write to you. Yours affectionately, Ajit. I am Ajit Banerjee, writing the rest of the story. My letter was posted to Byomkesh in Mahabaleshwar on the 9th of January. At about 3 in the afternoon of the 12th, Byomkesh arrived in Calcutta. I was surprised. "What is this? Did you get my letter?" "As soon as I got your letter, I took a plane." "Get ready fast, we have to go out immediately." He went into his office. Within half an hour we went out of the house and found a police van waiting for us with an inspector and a few constables. We got into the van. After some time, we reached Hemabati's house. But now no one came to open the door for us, it was already open. We entered the house and found it completely empty, except for the furniture. The door of the safe was open, but there was nothing inside. Byomkesh smiled helplessly. "The birds have flown." After dinner that night, we were relaxing in our sitting room. Although all the doors and windows were shut, the cold, winter wind was making its way into the room. I said, "I think you have brought some of the cold from Mahabaleshwar. I hope you haven't brought Bijoy Bishwas's ghost, as well." Byomkesh looked at me smilingly. "Your wrong idea about the ghost is still there." I said, "Naturally, I have never seen a ghost, so how will I have a right idea about one? Tell me, Byomkesh, is it possible that you have started believing in ghosts? Do you believe in the existence of Byomkesh Bakshi?" Of course, I can see him sitting in front of me. If I say that I felt the presence of the spirit, what will you say to that? I was quiet. Then I said, we won't argue. But tell me, in spite of all the efforts of your ghost, the mystery remains unsolved. Who told you that the mystery has remained unsolved? The spirit wanted us to see through a great deception. It was successful in doing so. What does that mean? Have you not understood anything? Of course, I understood. At first I misunderstood Hemabati. Now I know that Hemabati and Manik Mehta were in love and together they killed Bijoy Bishwas. She is a terrible woman. Byomkesh laughed. He said, I want to ask you a few questions, Ajit. Why did Manik Mehta take Bijoy Bishwas near the gorge to murder him? Why did Bijoy Bishwas go with him? I thought for some time and said, I don't know. My second question to you is, why did Bijoy Bishwas withdraw nearly all his money from his account in the bank in Mahabaleshwar? I shook my head. My third question is, when you went to meet Hemabati, it was a cold, winter evening. But the servant told you that she was having a bath. Did you not find it strange? It did not strike me as strange. My fourth question, did you not suspect the servant? Why should I? He was employed only a month back. But of course if he was stealing from the iron safe in the bedroom. Ajit, your simplicity is really touching. True, the servant was trying to open the safe, but not to steal. In Mahabaleshwar two people plotted to kill a person. One was Hemabati, who was the other one? Who else but Manik Mehta? Byomkesh said with a meaningful smile, that is the great deception. Hemabati plotted the murder with her husband, Bijoy Bishwas, and not with Manik Mehta. I was stunned. What are you saying? Byomkesh said, when Homji told me the story, I was not very impressed. But I found one thing a bit strange. Why should Manik Mehta take Bijoy near the gorge to kill him? Then my phantom client began pestering me. I had to start investigating. I found an address written in Bengali, in a slip of brown paper in the wardrobe. Things were becoming slightly clear to me then. I wrote a long letter to you. When I received your reply, I was quite sure that I had come to the right conclusion. I told Apte everything. He rang up the police in Calcutta and arranged for me to return by plane. Although we couldn't catch Hemabati and Bijoy Bishwas, the spirit's wish was fulfilled. We got to know who the true culprits are. Who knows, one day they may be caught, now that the police are on the right track. It was Manik Mehta's insistent spirit which made me take up the case. What really happened that night? Byomkesh said, no one knows what really happened except Bijoy and Hemabati. I have only come to a conclusion through assumptions. Manik Mehta was a terrible crook but Bijoy was a hypocrite. One day the two met and opened a hotel. Mehta gave the money and the Bishwas couple put in their hard work. The hotel was doing well. The early turnout was good. Mehta came sometimes to collect his share. Bijoy Bishwas did not keep much money in his account in Mahabaleshwar. Probably he kept it in his wife's name in a bank in Calcutta. Everything was all right. Suddenly Mehta got into trouble. His smuggled gold was confiscated. He escaped but became bankrupt. The only asset, which he had, was the hotel. He decided to sell the hotel. He needed cash. Now the question was, who would get the money out of the sale of the hotel? It is my assumption that since Manik Mehta gave the money for setting up the hotel, it was likely that he would claim the whole amount. I think that is what he did. But Bishwas and his wife decided that they would take all the money. We don't know the history of the couple, but I am sure they too had a criminal background. It was easy to put all the blame on Mehta as he was a known criminal. The couple planned the murder to its minutest detail. They had rented the house in Calcutta through some agent. Hemabati wrote the address and put it into her wardrobe. But by the time she left, she knew the address by heart, so she forgot to take the slip of paper. That was a grave mistake she made. Anyway, Mehta arrived that night as quietly as he usually came. There were no guests in the hotel. The maid went off to sleep. The only people in the hotel were Bishwas and Hemabati. I think they killed Manik Mehta in the office itself, in such a way that there would be no bloodshed. Then Bijoy Bishwas dressed Manik in his own coat and muffler. They carried the body to the back garden and pushed it into the gorge. The tiger couple, which had been living in the gorge, devoured the body and left the blood-stained clothes and a few bones for the police to investigate and identify. Bijoy Bishwas escaped with all the money. No one saw him in the dead of the night. Hemabati stayed back. Everyone knows what happened after that. Manek Mehta was blamed for the murder, as he was known for his criminal activities. So Hemabati came to live in the house in Calcutta. Bijoy accompanied her there. But they were very careful. You were made to wait until Hemabati dressed like a widow. Why else should she wash her hair in that cold winter evening? Obviously to wash off the vermilion in the parting of her hair. Anyway, when Hemabati entered the room, Ajit, you were struck by her freshly bathed, innocent beauty. You mentioned my name to her. My dear Ajit, don't think that I am not as famous as I assume. As soon as she heard my name, she became alert. Bikash had seen 2 beds in the bedroom and the servant trying the lock of the safe. These 2 pieces of information cleared all my doubts. I came rushing back. But unfortunately the culprits could not be caught. As I said earlier, now that the police are on the right track, thanks to the efforts of my disembodied client, they may be caught one day. I said, but Byomkesh, why didn't Bijoy Bishwas stay in that house? Where did he stay? Didn't the servants suspect them for their strange behavior? Byomkesh sighed exasperatedly. Dear God, Ajit, did you understand nothing? That servant was Bijoy Bishwas.